Hello, YouTubers. This is Speedster Johnny, out for a ride again. Glad you're able to ride along with me. It's the end of May. It's a beautiful day. Temperature is in the low 80s, which is nice, but a little too warm for the regular jacket, the Joe Rocket that I usually wear. So instead, I've gone to the Bon Armour shirt. I think this still may qualify as all gear all the time, because it does have the padding in the shoulder, the elbows, and the back. Lord forbid I ever get thrown off the bike. It's good to know that I'll be somewhat protected. But I don't really figure on getting thrown off the bike, so I guess it's kind of a moot point anyway. I know I've complained before about the roads in Georgia not being anything like the roads in East Tennessee, and I'll stand by that. There are some great rides, but you have to go pretty far up north and east into the mountainous part of Georgia, which isn't quite like East Tennessee, where you practically go out your door and you're on the beautiful roads. And many of them aren't that far away. I rode the Devil's Triangle with Great Rides, and we had a pretty good time. Of course, I couldn't keep up with him because he's a much more experienced rider than I am, or ever will be for that matter. But we had a good time anyway. Well, anyway, it's a nice day. Headed up to where we run into US Route 411. And it's a nice road that goes across Georgia and into Tennessee. It's a route that we're pretty familiar with around here because when we used to go between the Knoxville area and Atlanta, there's a couple of ways to go. One is to go I-75, which makes a lot of sense because it's fast. However, it's also longer. I don't really enjoy riding interstates when I don't have to. And 411 is a more direct route. So distance-wise it's shorter and time-wise it's about the same. So I would just as soon save the trouble and drive a little slower and go through the little towns and not have to be worrying about a lot of tractor trailers coming up my tailpipe. But that's just me. I'm sure others would look at it differently. Right now I'm on US Route 41, which will take me to the cutoff that goes to 411. 41 is a very familiar road to me because it goes right up into Illinois. As a matter of fact, there used to be a gathering in Highland Park, Illinois, which is right on US 41, at a place called the Highland House Restaurant. And just about everything you could imagine would show up there. American bikes, British bikes, Italian bikes, Japanese bikes, and you can just about name it. And oftentimes there'd be 100 or 150 bikes there crowded into the parking lot, which was good business for the people that owned the restaurant. Unfortunately, at some point after I moved away from Tennessee, that restaurant was sold, and I think it was bought out by an auto dealership that needed more space. So I imagine the building probably doesn't even exist anymore. But while we were there, I sure had a great time going there, meeting a lot of swell bikers and you name it. Bikers are good guys overall. I think probably the most exciting two things that ever happened to me were one time a guy rode in on a Harley Davidson Silent Gray Fellow. We're talking about something maybe about 1915. And the guy looked to me like he was old enough to be the original owner. He didn't stop, he just rode through and kind of waved at us. And if he had stopped, I'm sure he would have been mobbed. The other thing that was really kind of funny is that we were all kind of standing around watching the traffic go by on 41. And there was a guy that had an old Ford tractor, one of those old gray ones, on a trailer. And I don't know whether it was right before he was getting ready to start or whether he was getting ready to pull away, but the thing broke loose and rolled off the end of the trailer. And fortunately, nobody was hurt, so we had a pretty good laugh over that one. You see everything up at the Highland House restaurant. You know, rest in peace, all those wonderful times that we had there. It sure was a fun place. I always wonder, how long is this fun and madness going to go on? Since I left Tennessee, there's been kind of a long, cold, dry spell where I haven't been riding very much, and I still enjoy it. Getting to the point, though, that I probably need a couple of new front tires, and been looking up on spiderlovers.com to see what people are doing, probably to get something better than the OEM tires that aren't that great. And hearing some stories about how dealerships are telling people that, oh, if you put on those car tires, then you'll probably have a problem hitting the inner fender wells. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of ways to get around that, like buying tires that are right size in. As for right now, it's just a quiet Sunday afternoon, and I think it was last Sunday I actually took it and enjoyed it pretty much. But today it's a little on the rainy side, so that's not going to be possible. That's okay, I'll get a chance soon enough. I do wish we could have sunny days and proper temperatures when I'm best able to take a ride, but well, sometimes that just doesn't happen. And I'm sure you've all run into this yourselves. Now we're on 411, and we're almost to the intersection of 411 and the previously mentioned US 75. That's a pretty fast road and kind of dangerous. And as you get into Atlanta, it gets really hairy. There's a lot of drivers that drive as though they were kamikaze pilots, and they're taking terrible risks. It's always kind of interesting to listen to the TV morning news forecasts for weather, and every day there's a crash somewhere, or a disabled vehicle, or a tractor trailer turned over, and gee, I would think people would want to do everything they can possibly do to avoid an incident, but it seems like people think that their lives are charmed or something, and they just drive like there's no tomorrow. And occasionally, for some people, I think that's exactly what it is. So long, folks. Goodbye, Crew World and all that. Like most big cities, I think the Atlanta area and surrounds are filled with people who are rather reckless. I remember in East Tennessee, Knoxville's not a big city, and I think there's almost like a direct relationship between how large the city is and how bad the people drive. I think the worst city I've ever been in, and it wasn't New York City, surprisingly enough, but rather Boston, and especially on those roundabouts, where if there was a space big enough to get a car into it, somebody would be coming into the circle, and by golly, you better make allowances for that, or you're going to be another statistic. Well, enough about driving. This is supposed to be about riding. And I think we're on another road that has lots of tar snakes. Well, that's how they keep the roads up. Everywhere, I suppose. Well, anyway, thanks for listening, and I'm going to sign out now. Speedster Johnny out.